Hello, my name is Jake Weiss, and I'm the volunteer recruiter for CASA for Children, a nonprofit organization that works with foster kids in the greater Portland area, including Columbia County. Today, I'm here with two CASA volunteers here in the CASA office in St. Helens to speak with them about their experience in volunteering with CASA. Hello, would you like to introduce yourselves and tell us how long you've been a CASA volunteer?
My name's Paige Diaz, and I've been a CASA for a little over 2 years.
Hi, my name is Holly Dueck, and I have been a CASA for just over a year.
For those who may not be familiar, can you explain what a CASA does?
So a CASA is a court-appointed special advocate, and it is a person that is assigned to a child or children of a family that's going through the child welfare system. So a CASA is going to be with a kid from when they are appointed to when the case is closed and they're back with their family. And as an advocate, you are attending all of the meetings that have to do with that child, all the hearings. You write a report to the judge, advocating what you think is in the best interest for that child. Attorneys have a lot of kids that they're dealing with. Caseworkers have a lot of cases of kids that they're working with. And it's just nice because a CASA is, typically a one-on-one with a child or children going through the system so they can focus more time and energy on that specific case.
Who can become a CASA and how?
Great question. Anyone can become a CASA. You would definitely just want to contact your local CASA office, and we provide all of the training, and you get all of the education and help that you need to become a CASA and to go down this journey. And there is a desperate need for more CASAs. There are so many children who are waiting in the foster care system that could use the help of someone who is willing to be their voice and be a safe person for them.
How did you first hear about CASA, and what made you want to become a volunteer?
So I had heard about CASA kind of long before I actually became one. I had heard a little bit about them, and then 2.5 years ago, when there was kind of a crisis with the child welfare system, I kind of decided to kind of get some more information and decide that I wanted to try, instead of just feeling helpless about what was happening, try to be part of the solution. And I had gone to a informational session and then just kind of fell in love with it and have become obsessed with being a CASA ever since.
I heard about CASA through my friend Paige, actually, who told me about it. And my husband and I had talked about becoming foster parents, but it's not something that we can do right now. And I knew that I wanted to help and give back and really help children who don't have a voice in our community. And so we went through orientation and absolutely fell in love with it and have been CASAs ever since.
What kind of a time commitment is it being a CASA?
So it really depends on the month and kind of what's going on in the case. There are busier times than others.
Time spent on the case definitely varies by what's going on, but the really nice thing about it is you are able to work after hours. So you can do things through email and write court reports and even check in with your foster children and foster families in the evening or on the weekends. So there's a lot of flexibility. It's very doable. Just definitely depends on what's going on in the case. So I would definitely say probably 20 hours a month, but flexible time to utilize those hours.
You mentioned writing court reports. How much time do those take? Are court reports difficult to write?
I have found that working on the reports throughout the months so that you're prepared when you go to court, it's a lot easier than trying to write a report at the last minute. So if you stay consistent with your report and just make sure you're taking notes as you go through your case and meeting with your children and with attorneys, the reports aren't bad at all. But they definitely do take time, and you don't want to rush them because you are using your report as a voice for the children. So it can be anywhere from a couple hours to a full day, depending on if I've spent diligent time making notes as I go.
I think the first report is definitely where you're spending most of the time because you're trying to establish what's happened. And then from that point, the subsequent ones are just editing and updating kind of what's going on. But I don't typically just sit and write it all down in one evening or anything like that. So it's really kind of spread out, but it's definitely, like Holly said, something you want to give thought to.
What kind of help and support do you get as a CASA volunteer?
You have an awesome team in Columbia County to support you. The CASAs are supportive of one another, but we also have fantastic management here, and our leadership is just really supportive. So even if it's after hours, they're always quick to respond and be there to help answer questions. That was something I just felt ill-equipped for the job when I started, but I've always had the support I've needed to make very educated decisions in my case.
Yeah, so as a CASA, you have a supervisor who is with you every step of the way. They're helping you with your court report. They're someone you can come to when you have questions. If you're unsure of something, if you're not getting a response, there's someone you can contact. And not only that, I think Columbia County is unique. We're really more like a family. It's a group of people that have the same mission in mind to help these kids, and so we're able to support each other as well.
Aside from what you just mentioned, can you talk a little about what makes Columbia County such a special place to be a CASA volunteer?
So Columbia County, as rural areas go, it's a unique county in the sense that it's small. Everybody kind of knows each other. We only have 3 judges, so we have this small consortium of attorneys, and so it's really nice to be able to work with attorneys and caseworkers and judges on multiple cases. You kind of build a rapport with them, and I think that is kind of unique to where we're at, and it's just a great place to live and to give back and just be living in.
I think Columbia County is a fantastic place because we're able to work in our small community to make a difference. So while some of the larger communities have more resources and maybe more volunteers, Columbia County is a small community, and we need the help and we need the resources, and we also maybe don't have as much as the larger counties. So to be able to give back where we know it's needed has been really important and crucial for me in my volunteering, because I'm able to give back to my own community where I definitely see a huge need.
I've heard about a Kokasa. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
A Kokasa, in my opinion, is a fantastic asset to have as a CASA. It means that you share the case with someone. So in my case, it's my husband, and we work on the case together. Larger cases with more children are fantastic for having Kokasas because you're able to really dedicate enough time to each case since there's 2 people. We write court reports together. We're able to talk through, since the information is classified. If you have a Kokasa, you have someone you can process everything with and talk things through. And for me, it's my husband and I, but I know with Paige's, you can be signed up with just another CASA if you don't have a spouse or friend that is a CASA with you. There's other CASAs that will join you on your case, and it can be assigned as such.
Yeah, it's really nice to have someone to bounce ideas off of and just kind of share the load with, so you're not feeling like it's all on you and you're responsible for everything. So it's a really good option for people that are like, I want to be involved in this, but I don't know if I could have a whole case by myself.
What are some of the challenges of being a CASA?
I would say the hardest part for me in being a CASA is that it is emotional. You are working with children, and anytime you work with children, you get emotionally invested, as you should. It's a very important part of this, but you also have to make sure that you're very logical and very factual in everything that you do. It can't be driven by emotion, and that can absolutely be challenging sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's, you care, I think about my CASA kids every day, hoping that they're okay and making sure that they're taken care of. So, it can be, that can definitely be a challenge, but a good one to have. So that's probably one of the hardest things about it.
What's the most rewarding thing about being a CASA?
I think one of the most rewarding things is knowing that we're helping these children right now, and what's happening in their lives immediately, but we're also hopefully helping them for the future, for the type of citizen and human that they're going to be. I think that they're not as many volunteer opportunities where you're really able to long-term, have a lot of long-term payoff, even in the short-term payoff at the same time. And building relationships with these kids is really fulfilling for them to have stability, and to see them really open up and see what they can become is really awesome.
I think establishing relationships with the children is huge, and being someone who's consistent for them. There's a lot of change in the foster world as far as judges and social workers and foster families, and being a CASA, I get to be the one that they can always count on to be there. And I recently had a child who went through some trauma, and their guardian said that I was the first person they wanted to talk to. They asked to call me immediately. And so having a relationship where I feel like I really am making a difference and an impact, and that I can be a safe person for someone that doesn't have that, has been extremely gratifying.
What is it like to work with foster kids remotely, and how are you dealing with the pandemic?
The kids that I work with right now have adjusted really well because they are doing their schooling online, and so it is definitely more challenging. Statistically, you see that there's not as many calls being made to the child abuse hotline because children aren't in school, they're not in public. So we have to work harder to make sure that needs are truly being met. And that includes a lot of communication with them, whether they have cell phones and you can text with them or talk with them, or whether you're talking to foster parents, and just staying in constant communication. It absolutely is more challenging, but it's been very doable, and we've been really happy to see how compliant the families that we're working with are during this trying time.
It's been a little bit tough. I mean, trying to build relationship with kiddos over Zoom can be hard when it's, hard even as an adult. And, the child welfare system is, fairly well known as being pretty slow, and the pandemic definitely increases that wait times for things. But I think, children are really resilient, and we've been able to do a lot of things over Zoom and being socially distant with masks and, outside. So, I think we're adapting. It's, not a perfect situation, but I think we're still able to make sure that visits are happening and the kids are getting what they need.
Thank you both so much for your time, for sharing your experience, and for doing such important work for kids in need in Columbia County.
Thank you so much for having us.
If you'd like to learn more about the CASA organization and how to become a volunteer, please visit casahelpskids.org.